What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name's Michael Roman, aka Allfires. Now, we're headed into the second week of Quantummania's theatrical release, and over the last week here at the channel, at least from the comments I've seen from the community on my videos, most of you really seem to enjoy the film, and I did as well. However, now that I've had a chance to watch it more than a couple of times, my initial concerns and feelings when I left the theater the first time have only been confirmed, and some of my gripes with the film felt eerily familiar from Phase 4. The CGI just seemed without intention in detail. The backdrop of the quantum realm just a mash of off-red, off-purple, and brown mud over and over again, and beyond that, editing gaffes, actual errors. While editing film can be subjective in the name of art, this is what seemed just very amateur to me and perceivable on the very first watch. And while these things hardly justified the initial critical panning of the film, and I could still enjoy Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantummania despite them, I was confused how something with this lack of polish could make its way onto the silver screen for Marvel and the kickoff for Phase 5. Well, an article published in the last couple of days from Vulture with CGI artists who worked on this film speaking on record but anonymously in fear of backlash from the industry have explained in depth what happened and why Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantummania and Wakanda Forever's competition may end up defining the future of Marvel Studios as we know it. We're going to read through the important parts of the article and really focus on some of what I would consider baffling reveals about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantummania's post-production. But first, if you could grab the subscribe button. We do daily Marvel content at the channel, and that's all we do. Everything from official Easter egg breakdowns, trailers, and reviews to the occasional industry insider report and everything in between. So if that sort of thing's for you, hit the sub button, leave a comment down below. That will automatically enter you to win our ongoing PS5 giveaway. The next one will coincide with the release of Guardians of the Galaxy in just a couple of months. Again, all you got to do, be a sub, leave a comment, stick around to the end of the video. We'll get into all the giveaway stuff again there. Okay, so there's actually several points I want to make, but let's get into the article first. This came from Vulture in the last 2 days, speaking about the post-production on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantummania. About halfway through the article, this is what they write, quote, "It turns out critics aren't the only ones who feel that the computer-generated imagery on Quantummania could have used a bit more fine-tuning. Some of the very VFX artists who created those sequences, who spoke with Vulture on the condition of anonymity for fear of professional retaliation, agreed that the film's CGI quality control measures were subpar. Two of the three people we interviewed admitted that, quote, shortcuts were taken and said critical resources were diverted away to Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, the follow-up to 2018's $1.34 billion grossing Black Panther, which was in post-production around the same time as Quantummania. Several of the same effects houses worked on both films, creating competition for the most highly skilled VFX workers." They continue by saying, like previous criticism leveled at Marvel by effects techs tired of, quote, being pixel-effed and pursuing unionization, these workers say the project was severely understaffed while facing an unrealistically short deadline to hit Ant-Man's long-established President's Day release. The upshot, a grueling slog during which filmmakers and studio executives, quote, nitpicked and revised vast swaths of Quantummania without budgeting enough time to implement the changes, forcing VFX workers to toil as many as 80 hours per week for months. Quote, "This was like the second wave of what happened with James Cameron on Titanic, where compositors were basically taking naps under their desks because there wasn't even enough time between shifts to go back home and then come back. Now that the entirety of the industry that has been touched by Marvel is permanently seared, that's what's causing the most burnout." For Ant-Man, there were a lot of editorial changes happening toward the latter third or fourth of the project that were just too late. There's a point of no return. Why certain things were changed, why certain notes were nitpicked longer than they should have been, that's on Marvel, but it definitely did cause a lot of tension, turmoil, and weight on everybody. Unfortunately, it is noticeable that there were shortcuts. Certain things were used to cover up incomplete work. Certain editorial cuts were made to not show as much of the action or effects as there could have been, likely because there just wasn't enough time to render everything. There was a lot of shortening and rolling shots. Rolling is when you don't shorten or lengthen a shot, you just move it a few frames in the cut. It really did feel like certain scenes were trimmed or otherwise altered, either to save money or time or to cover up the inability to get it done. Now, there are several points I want to make, and there's a reason that I covered this article when we don't normally cover stuff like this at the channel. Of course, you may be inclined, or some of you may say, well, hey, this is just an employee on record, but not having to put their name on something, talking about their boss. I think there's a lot of people in a lot of industries that would criticize both their industries and their boss as asking too much of them. However, when I leave Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantummania and think what I thought about the CGI and the editing. Literally watching Kang lead Janet through a portal only seconds later to see Janet led up to Kang sitting in his chair. This is editing 101. If you've studied the craft at all, you know better than to take scenes and butt them up against each other like that. And this happens several times during Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantummania. And then I hear and read this article, hear stuff like this. One goes a long way in explaining the other, especially when you saw She-Hulk with two totally different renderings of the character. And this is on record. There were two VFX houses that worked on She-Hulk. One covered all of the scenes of her in the office and mostly during the day. The other VFX house covered all of the other scenes where she wasn't in the office, outside, at the wedding, fighting against Daredevil in the parking garage. And I don't think there's a single one of us, when comparing those scenes side to side, who would not agree that she looks way better done by the VFX house, who was able to render her outside of the office. And that's indicative of what they just said here. There are only so many of these VFX and CGI guys in the industry. There's only so many of the top skilled guys. There's only so many hours they can log. And to hear that Marvel had Wakanda Forever and Ant-Man and the Wasp on the editing table at the same time, and actually had to take resources from one film to give it to the other, tells me that they have maxed out the industry limits for what they can do. And this is why you saw Bob Chapek replaced as CEO, because he was one who was behind all of the driving force for doing these impossible asks and pumping out all of this stuff to put on Disney Plus way before it was ready. And this is why over the last 3 to 6 months, now having Bob Iger back at the helm and working with Kevin Feige, Marvel Studios is dialing back their production in the face of this. Number one, they can't continue to work their workers like this. It's not fair, and I hope that at least on some level, it's a humanitarian approach to making the whole entire CGI industry better. I hope that's behind Marvel's intentions. But also from a purely strictly bottom line standpoint, while yes, driving content out on Disney Plus probably did help with subscribers, if you keep putting out Marvel movies like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantummania, by the time we get to Secret Wars, it will have completely diminished the brand. There is only so much even us diehard fans are willing to accept. And as I said at the beginning of this video, yes, I was able to enjoy Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantummania, in spite of what I considered to be very amateur editing and some very bad CGI. But would it have been better if those things were addressed? Yes, and considering Marvel Studios is at Disney, they are at one of the richest studio houses. The only thing now, the resource they need in abundance, is time, which is why the Marvels just got pushed back to November, which is why they're slowing down in production, why Agatha and Echo may not come out this year or for several years, and why they're going to dial back how much they're doing in an attempt to make the CGI better and hopefully avoid what we just saw with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantummania. Now look, I don't mean to sort of sour it at all. If you watched Quantummania and didn't notice the editing errors, that's great. That's not a problem. I don't think that any less of you as a moviegoer and an enjoyer, and I think we've reached a really weird time where you sort of feel like you have to be on one team or the other in a lot of things in life, and art is not that way. You can like something a lot or little, and you definitely don't owe anybody any explanations. And in fact, sometimes we know something is bad and like it anyway. But as far as Marvel Studios, they set the bar so high in the Infinity Saga. And guys, there are just some things that feel right when we get them from Marvel, and some things that feel less than. And if Marvel has to dial it back so that more of them can feel right and good and not less than, well, like I said, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantummania was good, but I would have liked it more if they hadn't had some of these CGI and editing gaffes. You guys, however, let me know all your thoughts down below. I am all for it. I think I probably already know how a lot of you feel, but as always, discourse in the comments quickly. Let's get into the giveaway stuff before I let you go. Okay, we're still giving away PlayStation 5s, but now that we've hit 1 million subscribers, instead of milestones subscriber-wise, we're going to do it to coincide with the release of Marvel movies. The next one is Guardians of the Galaxy in just a couple of months. If you want to be entered to win or for any of the other future giveaways here at the channel, all the same rules will always apply. Hit the subscribe button because you need to be a subscriber, then leave a comment down below. Because it's truly random, the more videos you comment on, the better chance you have of winning. All winners will always be announced live by my voice at the end of videos in the same segment we're doing here. So, if you should happen to get a comment on my channel or any others across YouTube, please remember there's spammers and scammers everywhere. Anybody can use anybody else's picture. We will never ask you to contact us on a third-party app like WhatsApp or Telegram. No YouTuber, including myself, will ever ask you to pay for shipping. Please be vigilant and be safe. If you should get one of those comments on my channel, you are doing me and the rest of the community a huge service by reporting that comment. Not to me by DMing me, actually clicking on the comment on the 3 little dots to the right and reporting that comment to YouTube. They'll go ahead and take it down and also delete that account, and it is a huge service to everyone involved. I sincerely apologize for the inconvenience. They've been on the platform hardcore for the last year, guys. YouTube says they know, they says they are addressing it, and I've done everything I can to sort of set the filter restrictions on commenting as strict as I can to still let you guys comment, and I still spend multiple hours a day and week deleting those comments as much as I can do, so you're helping me out a ton by reporting them yourselves. My name's Michael Roman. Find me in a couple of places, Instagram and Twitter at @IamFires. You can also find me on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, iTunes, wherever you listen to original music under the name Allfires. Well, I sincerely appreciate you checking my music out. Thanks for checking this channel out. Stick around. We'll be posting again real soon.